All right. I'm gonna look at one scripture for now. So if you have your word, turn with me to the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 20. Amen. Proverbs chapter 20. We're gonna look at one verse. That's verse number 23. Proverbs 20, verse 23. All right, let's look at it. Proverbs 20, verse 23. It says, "Divers weights are an abomination unto the Lord, and a false balance is not good." Let me read that again. "Divers weights are an abomination unto the Lord, and a false balance is not good." If you're taking notes on today, I am coming from the topic unequal justice. Unequal justice. Unless you have been under a rock for the past year, and especially last week with the Derek Chauvin trial, you know what is happening in the news. Last week, Chauvin was found guilty on 3 charges when he murdered George Floyd. The jury found him guilty on all of the charges. He has not been sentenced yet, but that's coming within the next few weeks. But with all of the evidence and the video and everything that was presented in court, he was found guilty on all 3 charges. Now, in the black community especially, the majority of us we felt it was a good ruling. We felt as though that's what he deserved, and that was to be guilty on all 3 of the charges. And many of us were holding our breath because although we had the evidence, we had the videotape, we had witnesses, we still held our breath because we did not know how the verdict would come down. Why? Well, it's because for a long time, especially in the black community, we have not been getting equal justice. We're seeing things go in the other direction when we had the evidence, when we had witnesses, and we had everything on our side to convict others of wrongdoing, but it went the other way. So with bated breath, we were anticipating a verdict to come down, but we did not know which way it would go. We were watching and watching and holding our breath and praying that justice would be served, that he would be held accountable for his actions. Thank God that the jury came down with all guilty charges on him for all 3 of the charges, because that is what he deserved. Because he deserved to be found guilty of murdering that man. There's no reason why you should have your knee on the neck of someone for close to 10 minutes. He deserved the verdict in which he got. But in the black community, many of us did not know which way it was going to go down. Grace Center God is a God of justice. He is a God of justice. And we're just going to look at Proverbs 20:23 for right now. We're going to look at a couple of others later, but let's look at the text for right now. The first part of the text that we read, it says, "Divers weights are an abomination unto the Lord." here the word says that God does not like it when scales are unfairly weighed. And unfortunately, this nation has had some skewed scales for a long time. Skewed scales in the way in which we vote and when we were allowed to vote. Skewed scales in pay. Skewed scales in qualifying for a house. Skewed scales in the jail time that some of us get compared to others with the same criminal offenses. Oh, the scales of injustice in the black community have been skewed for a long time. Let's talk about it. You come to the great center because I hope you want to hear the truth. So let's talk about it. The scales have been skewed for a long time. There was even a time, Grace Center, that African Americans weren't even considered to be full humans. They tried to keep us from learning how to read. They wanted us to guess at the number of jelly beans in a jar before we could even vote. Oh, the scales have been skewed for a long time. And the word says that when the scales are weighed differently, God hates it. That's the word. God hates it when scales are weighed differently. That word in the King James Version, it says abomination. That means to detest. Detest. God, he detests injustices and he detests things, and when the scales are tipped in the other direction, he detests that. He detests injustices and the unfair treatment of others. Isaiah chapter 1 verse 17. Isaiah 1:17. It says, watch this, learn to do good, to be fair, and to help the poor, the fatherless, and widows. That's Isaiah 1:17. Zechariah chapter 7 verses 8 and 9, it says, then this message from the Lord came to Zechariah. Tell them to be honest and fair, not to take bribes, and to be merciful and kind to everyone. Tell them to stop oppressing widows and orphans and foreigners and poor people, and to stop plotting evil against each other. So here you have the word letting us know that God hates the injustices that happen. God detests when individuals oppress others. He hates it. And there are plenty of scriptures that we can read today. During my study, I was trying to narrow down which scriptures I was going to even read. It's so many of them. But God detests injustices. There's a scene in the Word that there was the unfair treatment, and it was some cheating going on in the temple, in the house of God. And when Jesus found out about it, the word says that he came into the temple and he began to turn over tables. He was upset with the cheating that was happening in the house of the Lord. And he said that the house of the Lord should be a house of prayer, but you all made it a den of thieves. Because what was happening is that when individuals came to purchase different livestock and so forth, they would take the money from the people and yet give them bad livestock. They were cheating people. They were cheating individuals. It was an injustice that was going on, and it was unfair, and Jesus did not like it. Jesus was angry with what was taking place, and he came into the house of the Lord. He began to turn over tables. He didn't sin, because we can be angry and not sin. And a lot of things that are happening today of how different races are treated, we should be angry about that. With righteous anger, we should be upset with the injustices that take place. Jesus came into the house of the Lord, and he was so upset that he turned over tables and he began to whip and beat those individuals until they got out of the house of the Lord. He hates the unfair treatment of others. And let's talk about this here as well with what's happening every time we turn on the news, it seems like. Now, there are some good, no, let me rephrase. There are some great police officers. No doubt about it. There are some great police officers. I'm pretty sure, you yourself may be a police officer. You may have police officer family and friends and so forth. There are some great police officers. I mean, they get up every day just wanting to do their job and to go home safely to their families. They leave the home and don't know if they're going to make it back home safe or not. And it takes a special person to be a police officer, to put your life on the line for others, for people you don't even know sometimes. It takes special people to be police officers. And let's say this as well, is that with these police officers, sometimes they are faced with difficult decisions. They are placed in situations that you and I will never be placed in. And sometimes they are there to make a split-second decision. Because watch this right here. And let's just be truthful, y'all. Let's be true. If we are going to be Christians or we are going to be believers, let's speak the truth. Not all bad shots by police officers, let me say it again, not all shots by police officers are bad. Just because someone's life is taken at the hands of a police officer does not mean it's a bad shot. Let's talk about it now. If you are going to be a Christian, if you call yourself a believer, a disciple of Jesus Christ, let's speak the truth. Not every shot by a police officer is bad. You have some great officers that will put their life on the line for you and they don't even know you. Now, do you have bad ones? Oh yeah, you sure do. And they don't deserve to wear a badge and a gun. Because not everyone is fit to do that job. They have a power trip sometimes. They have an ego. They have a chip on their shoulder. They don't deserve to be a police officer. Derek Chauvin he never deserved to be a police officer. As a matter of fact, they need to go back and revisit some of the offenses and the tickets he wrote. And probably throw out some of that stuff. And if there are bad officers on the force, they need to be rooted out. They don't deserve to wear a badge and a gun. They are not there to protect and to serve. And they need to get out of there. But when you have good officers who are trying to do what is right, and when they are forced in a situation where they have to take the life of someone, not all shots are bad. And we have to be truthful about this. Because watch this right here. If an officer takes the life of someone that he didn't have a choice to do, and if we go against that, we lose the power that we have. We lose the credibility that we have. If it's a bad shot, oh, they need to be rooted out. If you're supposed to go for your taser, you go for your gun, oh, you need to be rooted out. Let's talk about it now. If you got your knee on the neck of someone for 9 minutes and 29 seconds and you kill them, you need to be rooted out. You need to go to jail. But not all shots by officers are bad. We as believers, as Christians, as disciples of Jesus Christ, we call balls and strikes. If it's a ball, it's a ball. If it's a strike, it's a strike. It is what it is. So we have to call things the way it is. Because we cannot say, okay, since you shot this individual, you need to go to jail or you need to be fired. We can't do that. Okay, we have to be fair on both sides. Remember? The scales have to be fair. And God hates it when the scales are not balanced. So we as believers have to follow the word as well. Yeah. Okay? So not all shots by officers are bad. And we cannot demonize good police officers for simply doing their job properly. We can't do that. We absolutely cannot do that. But if there are bad officers out there, they need to be called out. We need to call them out. And they do not deserve to wear the uniform. Because there's too much power that's given to someone who mistreat others. I don't know if many of you knew this or not, but I myself was going to be a police officer at one point in my life. As a matter of fact, if you look at my high school memory book, what I wanted to do was to be a police officer. That's what I wanted to do. And my decision was changed because my cousin was killed in the line of duty. As a matter of fact, I was in school. My first major was criminal justice. I was going to be a police officer. Me and my friend talked about it in high school and so forth, and he was going to be a police officer, and so was myself. And I signed up for my major to as a criminal justice major, and so forth. And when I was in school, my cousin, who was a police officer, he was also in school with me. We had the same class. He's much older than I am, but we was in the same class. And he sat here, and I sat right behind him somewhat. And when he was killed in the line of duty, it shook me so bad. I had to go back to class. There was an empty chair that was there in the class. And I changed my major because I realized that job is fit for certain people. It wasn't necessarily fit for me. Okay? You have to be cut from a special kind of cloth to be a police officer. Okay? Certain people, you have to be cut from that cloth to be a police officer. But I realized it was not for me. As a matter of fact, it's kind of funny that last year I taught on a message, I think regarding this whole George Floyd situation. And I was talking about how I used to get pulled over a whole lot from police officers, but it's been a minute since I've been pulled over. Well, I said that Sunday about it's been a minute since I've been pulled over by a police officer, and the very next week, guess what happened? I get pulled over by a police officer. I get pulled over, and he pulled me over because I had a broken, or my brake light was out in the back, and he pulled me over because he saw that. Now my interaction with that officer was a great interaction. He pulled me over. He was professional. He said, "I pulled you over because you have a brake light that is out," and so forth. I gave him my license and all of that. He went back, ran my information. I guess they missed that warrant. Just joking. But he came back and said, "Everything is good. You have a great day." And at that time, this was the time when it was like riots all over the place. It was Every week it was riots and different things all over the place. And there was peaceful protests as well. People were protesting peacefully also. It was around by that same time when all this stuff was going on. And as he was leaving, I looked out my window. I said, be safe. He looked back at me. He said, man, I'm trying. That's what he said. He said, man, I'm trying. And he was so professional about it. Those are the officers we need. But we do not need officers like Chauvin. We do not need racist cops on the force. Let's talk about them. We do not need officers on the force who mistreat others. We don't need them. Go sweep somebody's floor. Go empty the trash somewhere. You do not deserve to have a badge and a gun. There's too much power for you. And a lot of these officers, they get the big head because they get a badge and a gun, and they try to force their authority over others. But the word says that God hates it. It's an abomination to him when you mistreat others. He does not like that. And if you are a police officer, you watching this right now, you know you're evil, you're bad, turn in your badge and turn in your gun. Let the good officers do their jobs. Because we are tired of watching individuals die at the hands of officers when they do things they should not be doing. Now, I'm not talking about when they are forced in a situation where they have no choice. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the bad ones. The ones who ego trip. The ones who are just waiting to pull the gun out and shoot someone that look like me. We don't need you on the force. We need the good ones out there. But it's not just police officers, Grace Center. It's the entire judicial system as a whole. It's laws that are being passed that will prevent voting on Sundays. It's laws that are being passed that will not allow people to hand out bottles of water to people in a voting line. Why do you think they're trying to pass these types of laws? It's racism. Plain and simple. Let's call it for what it is. It's racism. Okay? God hates that. God is not pleased with that. It's an abomination to him. He detests it. No race is superior to another race. No race is. I spoke about this before. That was Moses when he married his wife, and Aaron and Miriam, his brother and his sister, they gossiped and they talked about Moses and his wife, because Moses married outside of his race. When Moses married outside of his race, Aaron and Miriam did not like it. The word says that God gave Miriam leprosy. Watch this. God gave Miriam leprosy. And the word tells us that the entire camp could not move until she was healed of her leprosy. Because even when she was healed, even when she caught leprosy, Moses went to God on her behalf and asked God to remove the leprosy that she had. Although she was in the wrong, Moses still went to God and prayed to God and asked God to remove the leprosy on her behalf. One of my points is, these racist individuals, let's just pray for them. Even Jesus, when he was on the cross and being crucified, said, Father, they know not what they do. Father, forgive them. Let's pray for those racist individuals. But watch this. The whole camp could not move until Miriam was healed of her leprosy. Watch this. Catch it now. The entire camp was stuck. Why? Because she had leprosy and they could not move and go any further until she was healed. See, right now, this country we don't have leprosy per se, but there is racism all around us. And this country will not move forward until we get rid and root out the racism that we have. Will it ever happen? No, I don't think it's going to ever happen, to be honest with you. But we need to do our best to stop the hate that we're having. Whether we'll fully get rid of it, man, there are going to always be individuals who are going to hate others just because of their skin color. That's what it is. There are going to always be individuals who are not going to like another race just by simply how they look. It's going to be here. It's unfortunate, but it's going to be here. And this country will not get to the place where we really should be without racism. And that whole slogan that somebody had about make America great again, when was America ever great? When was it ever really great? Somebody tell me, somebody comment in the comment section, tell me when America was fully great. So somebody comment, just let me know, because I don't know. The U.S. has a black eye, and the foundation of it was racism. That's the sin of the U.S. was racism. I don't know if we're going to ever root it out completely. But we have to get past the color of our skin in order for this country to move forward. We all bleed the same. If we all get cut, we all bleed the same. The other day, I had a conversation with Lady Tanya about, and it's even crazy that we have to have these type of conversations, but I had this conversation with her. I said, if something ever happens to me, this is what I want to happen. I should not have to have those type of conversations about if I get shot by a police officer, this is what I want to happen. This is what I want to happen. We should not be having those conversations. Within black families, we have conversations about, okay, now what do you do when you get pulled over by a police officer? What do you do when this happens? What do you do when that happens? These are conversations, family, that we really shouldn't be having, but we have to have them, especially in the black families. I shouldn't have to tell my wife if I get murdered, this is what I want to happen. I shouldn't have to have those conversations. None of us should. But unfortunately, we have to have these. There are certain places, even here in Georgia, that we try not to go to. That if we're in that area, when it begins to get dark, we leave. We're like, oh, time to go. And we should not have to do that. And I know some of our white brothers and sisters don't understand what we go through, how we feel, how we're treated and so forth, but it's the truth. I cannot tell you how many times a white sister, sometimes a white lady, will just clutch her purse or put it on the other side of wherever I'm at, so I'm not even near her purse. And I can feel the tension of it. I cannot tell you how many times. I cannot tell you how many times certain things happen, of how we may go to certain places and we can see how we're treated differently than others. We see it every day. Every day we see that. I mean, even the other day, on the news, you had a army officer in full uniform getting pepper sprayed by an officer. Why? Why? Somebody tell me why. Because you couldn't see the tags in the back of his truck? Well, when you pulled him over, you saw the tags. What was the need to pepper spray him? What was the need for all of that? Some bad police officers, Grace, said they have to be rooted out. We don't need that. The man is serving his country in full uniform. And you're going to pepper spray him? Because you couldn't see his tags because he was driving further down the road to get to a lighted area? Because, why was he driving further to get to a lighted area in the first place? Because of the way we are sometimes treated. Come on, y'all. It's tight, but it's right. Maybe on another Sunday, I'll scream and do my little turns and sweat and spit all over the place and say, that's the kind of God we serve. But let's talk about the real stuff right now. Let's have these conversations, these tough topics. Let's have them. The church needs to have them. And watch this. We need our white brothers and sisters, other leaders of churches, having these same conversations with their white congregations. We need that. Because the black church cannot do it alone. Black people cannot do it alone. We need our white brothers and sisters to help us out, to educate others about what happens and about what goes down. We need their help. We cannot do it alone. Right now we have cameras all around, and we have, a phone that now have cameras on them. Look, this stuff has been going on a long time. It's just now that it's being caught on camera. That's all that's happening now. That's all that's happening. You saw what happened to George Floyd. If that was not caught on camera, Derek Chauvin would have still been on the police force today. Even after this happened, they put in the headlines in the news article that George Floyd died because of a medical reason. Did not mention anything about a knee on his neck. But when the footage came out, everything changed. This stuff has been going on a long time. But now it's just getting filmed. All right, let's continue on. The second part of verse 23. Watch this. The second part, it says, and a false balance is not good. Okay? A false balance is not good. The word says that when the scales are uneven, it's not good. It is not good, Grace Center, for people to be oppressed. It's not good for people to be mistreated. It's not good for people to be abused. When the scales are tipped more in one direction than the other, the word says it is not good. But justice has to be equal and not unequal. I'm closing now. One of my favorite people, and I wish I can have a conversation with him one day, is Martin Luther King Jr. They sometimes quote or say that Martin Luther King quoted this, but actually he got it from the Bible. And that's Amos 5:24. It says, but let judgment run down as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. That's the word. He said it, but it's the word. Just to give you some context behind that text is that people were giving offerings and doing different things during that time, but yet they had a corrupt character, right? They were doing things that seemed was right, but they had corrupt character. They had no values, had no morals. They just did things on the outside that appeared to be right. Okay? That's the context really behind that particular verse somewhat. But because watch this, even today you have people who say they are Christians but don't exhibit Christian characteristics. Oh, they say they serve God but won't serve you. They say they love God but don't love you. But they hide behind the name and the title of Christianity. Oh, but let judgment run down as waters, and righteousness as a mighty stream. In other words, both judgment and righteousness must flow like a stream. All right? Both justice and doing what is right must flow like a mighty stream. They both work hand in hand. Judgment and righteousness must work hand in hand. Justice and doing what is right must work hand in hand. But for far too long, the people have been clogging up the stream. They have been clogging up the stream with hate. They have been clogging up the stream with envy. They have been clogging up the stream with jealousy. They have been clogging up the stream with malice. Oh, but let judgment run down as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. You can't say you love God, but hate your neighbor. You can't say you love God, but you won't sit next to me. You can't say you love God, but you look down on others and feel as though you are superior to them. Oh, but let judgment run down as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. Stop clogging up the stream. We need judgment and righteousness to flow. And we do not want it to be clogged up with racism. We do not want it to be clogged up with hate. We do not want it to be clogged up with you thinking you are better than others. It must flow. Judgment and righteousness has to flow down that stream. Don't hide behind the title of you being a Christian, because a lot of them, they hide behind the title of Christians. Even during slavery days, they hid behind the title of Christians. And they even used the Bible to manipulate other people. They used the Bible and they twisted scripture to try to make it say something it never said. The word never tells us to mistreat others, to have them go out to the field and pick your cotton, for you to whip them and beat them. The word never says that. Never says that. But judgment and righteousness, it has to flow down the stream and not get clogged up. Don't call yourself a Christian if you mistreat others. Because Judgment Day, hey, it's coming for you too. Judgment Day is coming for all of us. I'm done. When we protest, there's a phrase we sometimes say when we protest. And we'll sometimes say, all we want is justice. And when do we want it? We want it now. We want justice. When do we want it? We want it now. We want justice. When do we want it? We want it now. And why do we want it now? It's a simple answer. It's very simple. You don't need a PhD to figure out why we want justice now. Why do we want it now? Because it's the right thing to do. It's that simple. We want justice. We want it now. We want to be treated fairly. Not having the scales tipped in different directions. Not the scale tipped in a way so that the treatment of others is wrong. We want a fair balance. We want God to be pleased with everything being fair. One scale not outweighing the others, but it's fair. That's all we want. That's all we're asking for. Unequal justice. We want justice, and we want it now.